to So What Were You Wearing, which is a YouTube channel. And my name is Heidi Townsend, and I'm your host today. And we're so excited that you're here. I have a very, very special guest who's been a longtime friend of mine, close associate, and just phenomenal in the work that she does. And she's been willing to come on this show and actually tell you what she was wearing when she met her beloved. So let me introduce you to Zoe Kors. We'll talk a little bit more about Zoe and her and other things that she does at the end of the show. But for right now, what I want to know, Zoe, is if you could share with us the context of what was going on in your life right before you met the person in your life that was very special to you, and then be able to tell us what you were wearing at that time. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Heidi. It's so exciting to be here and to get this invitation to speak about this with you. So when I met the man that is now my husband, his name is Andrew, and my daughter had just gone to college. She had just left. I met Andrew our first date was in December, and that previous September had gone to college in Alaska. I live in Los Angeles. So,
oh my goodness, that's a big departure, right?
Yes, it was a big departure. And, she's very independent, and I am too. And I didn't think that I was going to be that mom who crumbled when this is a moment that I've been waiting for, not for her to leave, but for her to launch into the world and to really start to find herself, as kids do at that age. And
you're a strong woman. Let's just put that in there.
Yeah.
You are a very strong woman, and I wouldn't expect that of you either.
Yeah.
So what really happened at that point, though?
Oh boy, I took off. Her father, clearly we are not together anymore as a couple, but we're very good friends. We're like brother and sister, and we did a really wonderful job co-parenting. And so we both went up. I flew up with Rachel, and then he came a couple days later, and we were there. I think I was there for about a week. Just, I was able to work remotely and let her do her thing and get it, settled and integrate. And then we would go shopping and, make sure she had everything that she needed. It's Alaska. So we didn't load up a car with all her things. We actually took a duffel bag and then flew up there, and then really had to get bedding and all kinds of stuff. So it was great, but I definitely had spent the fall really getting used to the idea that she was no longer living in my home, and that our connection was changing and evolving. So there was a good bit of grieving. I also have a son who was still at home, and so
well, that's got to help a little bit to at least take the edge off. Yeah.
100%.
And how old is your son?
He is, she is now 24 and he is 14.
Okay.
So yeah, this coming year, they will be 15, and we're not very far from 15 and 25.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's like, where do the years go, right?
Yeah.
So there you are with her, losing her, right? Still having your young son at that point.
Yes.
But still in this feeling of grief and angst, I would imagine, just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think angst is probably a strong word, but I definitely was a little weepy. we would often go to the local Walgreens, and which is sort of like a very large, like maybe they all are now, but it was sort of a large um, sort of pharmacy version of Walgreens. And we would go sometimes just to sort of walk around the aisle and look at nail polish and hair things and beauty items and get some snacks. And um it was just sort of our little hangout together, every once in a while. And it took a long time. The first time I walked into that Walgreens after I had dropped her in Alaska, I just walked in and burst into tears and had to leave. Like wow, it was a big shift. So, so by the time I met Andrew, I was definitely feeling better. However, um, the fact that she was coming home plays into our sort of first meeting and how that all sort of coalesced. She was coming
So
home for the first time uh, since having dropped her off.
right, right. So there's the big semi homecoming for at least for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah,
right? You were anticipating. And so probably preparing for that, right? Making
yeah,
preparations, not even thinking, kind of guessing that maybe someone else might walk into your life at that point. Is
yeah.
that kind of the lay of the land? That it's, you're so focused on her, right? That it may not have been at the top of your mind that you would meet someone.
Well, I was not really particularly dating at that time, nor did I want to. I had been single for a good maybe 12 years,
Uh-huh.
and by choice. And yeah, just not attached. I was not interested in a long-term monogamous relationship. And
Mm.
so I wasn't even thinking about partnership at that point.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Right. Last thing on your mind.
Right.
So, because it's not a high priority, I'm sure you got asked out, continually, but you made a
Oh,
choice to.
well, and I went out
Mhm.
continuously. Like I definitely had, I mean, when I say I wasn't dating, I wasn't necessarily looking to date. I wasn't online dating. I wasn't like, it wasn't part of my pursuit. But yes, I have a large sort of community in Los Angeles, and I meet a lot of people, and and so I definitely had a lot of dalliances and lovers and dates, but I just was not interested in getting too serious.
Right. And your daughter was coming home. So,
Yeah.
you've got your priority
Yeah.
because you want to see her, reconnect with her, and be there present for her fully, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so, what happened that was the unexpected at this
Well,
time?
so I had a friend in San Francisco up the
Mhm.
coast from me. She was dating men that were not really, she was not having a great time in the dating scene. She was doing a lot of online dating and meeting men who really weren't what she was wanting. And she was a single mom. And I said, gosh, there have to be single parent dating sites. There just have to be. Like, you need to
Sure.
meet a dad who understands what it is to have a child, to be a mother, and to be immersed in a career and single parenting and want to be dating. uh,
Right.
that's they're not going to be the top priority. And that's a different, maybe you need somebody that's a little older or a little more mature, or even a parent. So
Mhm.
I went online, we were on the phone, and I went online and I Googled, single parent dating website, and a site called Zeusk came up. And
Okay.
I had never heard of Zeusk. I think they're I've since found out that they're pretty well known, and I think they did a very aggressive Facebook advertising campaign, because a lot of people said, "Oh, I saw that ad on Facebook." Well, I didn't know that. I went on and thinking, here it is. Here's the single parent website, dating website. And so I log on to it. And immediately I put in, or it could, maybe my location services were active or something. And it gave me search results for my area.
Right.
And
And here your friend was on the phone, right, with you, and you're going
yes, my
through
friend
this,
is
right?
on the
So you're
phone. That's
right,
right. And I'm
right.
sort of vetting the website, right? So
Sure, to help her
I
out.
put in my stuff, or, you know, I wasn't putting in her criteria. And so a very attractive man came up
Oh my
that
goodness.
who was in lived about an hour from me. So like south of here in Orange County, halfway to San Diego, you
Oh
know.
my gosh, that's a
But he was like my guy, you know. I was like, oh my
yeah.
God, I want to meet this guy.
Oh
Very
my
compelling.
goodness.
So I joined for a month, the very minimum. I just 1 month, and it was like $9.99 or something for 1 month. And so I signed up and I I said, yeah, go on this site and see, maybe it's, and so we finished our conversation. I closed the computer, finished the conversation, went to bed, woke up the next morning to an email from Zeusk saying, don't forget to fill out your profile. And I thought, oh yeah, what did I do? Oh, okay. So I went on and I did like 2 seconds. I like threw together a profile, very just very quick and rudimentary. And
This is amazing, Zoe. I can't believe this. Anyway,
really,
keep going. Yes. Just
okay,
like,
well, this guy was nowhere to be found.
no.
Yeah,
After
this guy
all
was
of that.
nowhere to be found. He didn't exist. Well, come to find out later that dating sites do this all the time.
Okay.
They'll use your image with a different profile. You sign, you like in all
Mm.
of those, yes, 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 I agree to this, I agree to that. You're agreeing to have them use your profile. Or, you know, they might just take your profile, not just your picture, but your whole profile, and use it to say, like, look at all these attractive people that we have, even if they're not available anymore.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this guy was real or not, or ever was real or not, but he was not around. And I thought, okay, whatever. And so, like, no big deal. I'm
Right.
not heartbroken, right?
Right.
And so then this guy named Andrew reached out. And he actually was Buddhamatic, like Buddha. And at the time, my Instagram name was Zoe Matic. So I was like, oh,
Mm.
interesting. And he's a Buddhist. And that's interesting too. Like, that's in alignment with who I am. And it turns out he had spent 10 years in Zen training, and he was a widower, and he looked really interesting to me. And he
Right.
was also geographically desirable. He lived about 10-15 minutes from me, like really in the next
Mhm.
town.
Mhm.
And we chatted a little. He reached out to me and I was like, hi.
Sweet.
So
Nice.
that was Andrew. And we were chatting. It was the perfect, if he was super aggressive, I would have been turned off. I
Right.
want somebody with a lot of space, someone who's not needy,
Mhm.
someone who's not trying to like manage or control.
Right.
And
Not tie you down, right? Not to
yes,
exactly.
exactly. It was
Mhm.
just his like frequency of communication. It was a great cadence. And that went on for a few days. And then Rachel was coming home.
Mhm.
And I said to him, this is very soon. I don't usually do this, but we
Right.
have so much in common. And we live so close together. I wonder if you might want to meet for tea tomorrow night. My daughter is coming home. I'm going to have a visiting dignitary, and we're going into Christmas, and I'm not going to want to go out for the
Right.
next
Right.
11 days.
So this is your window, Andrew.
Yeah. So I said, I thought we have enough in common that we could spend an hour together. And he
Yeah.
said, that would be great.
Oh, I bet he was so pleased,
So we
actually.
met.
Yeah. And so, oh my gosh. So what were you wearing?
Okay. So I was wearing a black turtleneck sweater dress.
Okay.
It looks like a big oversized sweater, but it's long enough to be like a dress.
Mhm.
And black boots that came up just past my knees. And he do I tell what he was wearing?
Please tell us what. Yes, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm
Okay.
imagining you in this black sweater dress
Yeah.
and these boots that come up right to your knees, right?
Yeah. So
Looking
there's a little bit of leg in between the two.
good, good. A little bit of leg showing right there. And then looking, Christmassy, holiday-ish. And so what is he wearing when he shows up?
So he is wearing jeans and and
That's a guy thing.
yeah, totally. He's wearing jeans, which is great. And he's wearing a olive drab, shapeless windbreaker.
Okay.
And I thought, really? That's as
Uh-huh.
hard as you're going to try?
That's funny.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah. It was like an LL
Interesting.
Bean, like basic
Right.
zip up hood windbreaker.
Yeah. So
And
you're coming for tea and you walk in or
well,
you
so
yeah. So
we
when
met.
you first see him, what
Well,
is that the first thing that crosses your mind?
yeah, well, so okay, so we are we're
We
meeting
want to know it all, Zoe. We
we're,
want
me-
it all.
we're meeting at a shopping plaza, sort of, that
Of
has a lot
course.
of shops and restaurants, and it's sort of it was newer at the time, and lovely. Like there are fire pits and there are fountains and there's an outdoor play area for kids. And so we met at this area. We were going to meet in front of Pete's. And
Mhm.
so I saw him kind of across the way.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and okay, so the first thing is because I had done some online dating in the past where
Mhm.
like I would meet somebody and I'd be like, oh my God, they're like 15 years older than they said they were, or they don't, somehow they don't look like they did. So my first thought is like, okay, he looks just like his picture and he's attractive, right? There was that. Yes. Like and he had this wonderful smile. We smiled at each other. We were kind of like maybe, I don't know, 30 feet apart, and we saw each other and I walked over um
Huh. How
and
lovely.
it was
Mhm.
like, I mean, he didn't look like he wasn't sloppy by any means. He just
Right.
like more casual than I really, I don't know. There was something so we laugh about it to this day.
Do
His
you? Okay.
character. Yeah. And
Oh,
he says to me, like, that was a test. That was a test. Like, if you're
um,
just interested in me for for my clothing, if you like me, even though I'm wearing just a windbreaker, then you really like me. And
well, he did it intentionally then.
he-
It wasn't such a casual thing. He kind
yeah,
of like went, I'm going to wear some things to see
yeah,
if it was a test.
yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Really?
So we hugged. I hugged him. He
Yeah.
wasn't, I reached out to hug him, and we took a walk, and we were going to go to Pete's. And I said, after seeing him, I said,
Mhm.
would you like to go to True Food Kitchen? Because they have a great atmosphere and they have a great um uh pot of tea that I love. It's called a hot natural. And
Mhm.
um and he said, yes, sure. So we went and we ended up having 3 pots of tea each.
Oh
And
my.
3 hours later, we were sitting by the fire in one
Oh,
of the fire pits and talking and having a great time. And um and
wow,
that was the
Zoe.
first date. I took my boots off. By the time we got to the fire, I took my boots off and like curled up with my feet under me. We sat in separate chairs. We didn't snuggle together or
Mhm,
anything like
mhm.
that.
Yeah,
But
but
it
it
was,
felt that comfortable. It felt
yes, it was
that
lovely.
ease just to be
Yes.
with him. Isn't
Yes.
that beautiful? What
Yeah.
a beautiful first meeting, just to
Yeah.
have that evolve like that.
Yeah. And a few
It's
years
a
later, we
uh-huh.
he took me out to dinner at True Food Kitchen.
Okay.
He walked me over to the spot that we met and he got on one knee.
Oh, oh, that just gives me chills, Zoe. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
How tender is that?
Yeah.
That
It
is
was really sweet.
sweet.
And I said to him, like, we went over, he said, I want to walk over to the place we met. And so we walked over there and he said, okay, you go on your side and I'll go on mine. Let's do it. Let's reenact
Oh,
it. And so I I went over and I hugged him and then I kissed him. And he said, you didn't do that on the first
I
date.
know that wasn't how it went.
And I
That's
said,
so cute.
and I just sort of smiled and laughed. And then he got on one knee and he said, and I didn't do this on the first date.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Zoe, that is beautiful.
Yeah, it was so sweet. It was really, it was magical.
Yes.
Are you a Parks and Rec fan?
You know, I wish I was. Tell me,
Uh,
tell me about Parks and Rec.
well, well, I love Parks and Rec and and Leslie
I
knows.
should be. Mhm.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth going back. The first season, they were a little bit, I don't think they really knew who they were yet, often in the beginning, it's a little bit, it was not nearly as good. And when it first came out, I love Amy Poehler. So
Mhm.
I started to watch in the first few episodes, I thought, oh God, this is terrible. But then years later, my daughter said, Parks and Rec is the best TV out there. And she walked me through the whole thing, and it gets really great. Season 2 is just where it really starts to take off. So
Mhm.
good. But Amy Poehler, or Leslie Knope is her character. She meets and falls in love with a colleague of hers named Ben Wyatt. And it
Mhm.
is that I always said, like, I want my Ben Wyatt. I want my Ben Wyatt. And
Oh,
that moment was like, oh my God, this really exists. Like, this
yeah.
is my Ben Wyatt.
And this is what happened to you. Now, did you have any inkling at all that this was going to happen? I
I
mean,
didn't then. Um,
right.
we had talked about getting married. Like,
Sure.
we had really, he had asked about, let's see, about a month prior to that, my father died.
Oh my
He had
goodness.
spent 5 weeks in hospice, and
I'm
I
so sorry.
was
Yeah.
with, that's okay. He was 91 and a rock star, and I got to spend the most amazing 5 weeks with him in a hospice house where he was fully cared for. It's 5 bedrooms, and I just got to hang out with him.
Mm.
Um, and it was wonderful, and he was great. So during that time, Andrew asked him if he could, marry me. Um, and
Neat.
so that was really lovely. And I knew that that was happening. So I knew that it was coming at some point, but
Right.
he was very crafty at not letting me know that that was going to happen that night.
That is just so precious.
Okay, this is a woman who didn't want to be married, didn't want to be
Exactly.
partnered, was really like so happy being single. I am not, I always said, like, I don't have a romantic bone in my body. I think all of that is crap. And here I am, like, with this guy on one knee, like, just blown away, floored, head over heels.
That's amazing. That is so amazing. And as you said, is it your Jack Wyatt moment or your, what
Ben
was it?
Wyatt.
Ben
Ben
Wyatt?
Leslie Knope. Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's just phenomenal, right? And that it just unfolded like that, and even to get your father's blessing along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, and that he, yeah, must have taken the cadence, because I heard that early on, that that's important to you, to not feel like you're being, you know, caged in, tied up, all
Yeah.
of that sort of
Yes.
thing. And so there must have been something about him that made it, that somehow you
He,
went beyond that.
he is
Mhm.
the only one. He's the only person who really had everything it took to be my partner.
That's
I'm
just
I'm sure of that.
beautiful. You're obviously right.
Right.
You walk down the aisle with him, or whatever, however
Yes, we
got
did. We
married.
ended up, we had a really lovely, we're Zen Buddhist practitioners. And so we had a really lovely Zen Buddhist ceremony. And uh,
Mm.
yeah, it was really beautiful. But there was an aisle, and my kids walked me down the aisle. My daughter
Awesome.
walked me down, and my son walked ahead of us with the rings.
Mm. That is so beautiful. And the last thing in the world that you were looking for. And there
Yes.
just showed up when you were helping a friend out. Okay,
Yes.
let's just Google this, and there's got to be an answer here. And
Yeah.
up comes Zeus, and off you go. And then one thing after another. And here you are, as happy as anything,
Yeah.
doing the last thing that you wanted to do. Yeah, when everything came together. And so what's that, what's the lesson that our viewers can learn? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of lessons here of, stepping forward and stepping up when, because things are right, things are matching up. But what would you say about it?
Well, it's interesting because after a few months of dating, we had like a wonderful time together. There was a moment where I said, it's too bad this isn't my guy, because I really am crazy about him. I have such a great time with him. I love being with him. It's too bad he's not my guy.
Okay, Zoe. So hey, wait a second. So this is a few months in, you've been dating. I really like him, but it's too bad he's not my guy. So what about him was not, or tell us more about that. What happened in that
Nobody was
moment?
my guy.
What's that?
Nobody was my guy. I didn't
Yeah.
really want that kind of a thing. And he really was about, he had one foot, well, he didn't have one foot out the door. He really liked me. He thought I was great. But um at one point I took him out to dinner. This is 2 months in. I took him
Mhm,
out to dinner for his birthday, and I took him to a great club in Santa Monica called Harvell's. It's like
mhm,
a burlesque, jazz burlesque old club. uh,
mhm.
and it was a phenomenal night. And I thought, it's really too bad. I'm going to take him out for this amazing dinner and this amazing show. And it's going to be, we're going to have so much fun. And then I'm going to have to break up with him
Oh my goodness. Wait. Why did you have to break up with him?
because I didn't really want a serious relationship.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't really looking. I didn't really want a partnership.
Sure. I'm just like,
Okay.
Lord, no, and I totally understand. And thank you for being so candid with us. This is so important to
Un-
hear
Is
in
it
light of what
unusual?
happened. What's that?
Yes. Is it unusual?
Yes. I
Okay.
mean, yes, very unusual. So, I mean, because
So
here
we're
you're
sitting,
taking her
so
to
we're
obviously,
sitting at the show, right? We
yeah,
have dinner. We're sitting
yeah.
at the show. He's very present. He's a Buddhist after all. So he's very present.
Mhm.
And he can, he knows what's happening with me.
Right.
And he's got this sort of spark plug of a woman, and things are great with us, I mean, by this
Okay.
time we were having fabulous sex, um and and lots of laughs, and he says to me at one point, I don't know what came out of my mouth. I don't know
Mhm.
where the conversation was going, but at one point, not out of the blue, in
Mhm.
context, he says to me, well, this is your audition. Like, I'm rooting for you. I hope you pass the audition, but this is your audition. And I thought, wait,
What did,
wow, what?
what, what did he
Like,
mean by that? What do you think he
what he
meant by
meant
that?
was, I am looking for a particular kind of relationship. I want a partnership. I want someone to grow old with. Like, I want that in my life. Um, he was a widower. He had been dating. He was really looking to grow old with someone and to have a partner in life and to,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And and he really liked me. I
Mhm.
was crazy about me. But
Right, of
if
course.
that's not what I wanted, he would need to move on. You
Right. So
know,
you
it's
were
like, this is
both
my show. This is my show. I'm casting a starring role.
right.
This is your audition for that role.
Wow.
And
How did you feel about that when you heard him say that?
I was like, okay, not so fast. What? That's awesome. Like someone that wasn't just going to, there's someone that was willing and able to really see me, to know if I was the person they wanted to be with.
Right. Right.
Like, it wasn't that, it felt to me that every person that was had been interested in me was
Mhm.
interested in me to fill some sort of hole in themselves,
Mhm.
that they weren't really evaluating. They just didn't want to be alone. And if I was close enough to what they wanted, they could just like get me to change into the rest of the picture, you know?
Right.
And I don't
Mhm.
even think, I mean, I don't even think, I know that they weren't approaching relationship that way,
Mhm.
but it just felt like I would have to, like, it didn't really matter who I was
Right. Before. Before
before.
Andrew. Right. Mhm.
Andrew was much more of like the fact that he knew himself and knew
Right.
what he wanted and was in pursuit of that, and was sort of, you know, we were dating to get to know each other to see if it was a good fit. There's
Mhm.
something in that, his willingness to walk away.
Right. Right. To make that statement at that particular time.
Right.
Right.
Right. And
Which
so
you
I,
were thinking the same thing in a way, just from a different perspective, or maybe the same perspective. What do you think?
I think that we had the same perspective. I think that the second half of that conversation I'll share with you too, which happened, that was the end of February. And so mid-June, so then I said, okay, I'm not walking away from this.
You didn't break
Right.
up with him. Okay. Yeah.
I'm in for now.
Mm-hmm.
And in June, I was on a business trip in Chico, and Sunday morning, I was flying back Sunday night. Sunday morning, I woke up and there was a blackout all over the town, and I needed coffee in the worst way. So I got up and I started walking around town, and I called Andrew, and we were chatting while I walked around Chico, and I'm telling him what I'm seeing, and looking for the best cup of coffee Chico had to offer. Uh,
Sure.
and somewhere in that, again, I can't remember what led up to this, but I was talking about, he was acknowledging my 1 foot out the door. And I said, I'm here, and I'm crazy about you. And I just like, I just didn't think that I wanted a partner. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like I'm on the verge of breaking up, but it's just like, thank you for your patience. I am conflicted, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I am conflicted in here.
Right.
And then he says, I'll never forget this.
As you're walking around Chico looking for a cup of coffee. Uh-huh.
He says, you're free to go at any time. No one's keeping you here. You're free to go. And that's today or after 10 years of marriage. This is like an at-will relationship. And that was it. That was really it. That was all I had to hear. I was like, that's incredible.
That's a stunning statement. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Like, thank you. He's like, yeah. Like, and he said, I wake up with you and every day I sign on for one more day. He was like, yeah, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. And, you know,
Mhm.
I'm here now. Every day I wake up and I'm grateful. I take one day at a time. And
Mhm.
I thought, okay, that's that. This is my guy.
Let's move on. Let's be able. What a profound story, and that he is that insightful to be able to, just to share that and to realize that from his heart, obviously, right? It's
Yeah.
like a real heart statement.
And I want to be clear. This isn't about, like, my hesitation wasn't about wanting to have other lovers
Oh,
and not wanting to get. But, that's an obvious, I mean, people legitimately don't
mhm,
want to be monogamous. And I've used that term in this conversation with you. Like, I didn't want a long-term monogamous relationship. I didn't
mm,
want a long-term polyamorous relationship. I just didn't want a relationship.
right.
And when I do get involved, like, I'm not interested in, I mean, the reason I'm not interested in having multiple relationships. I just didn't want to do the emotional work of partnership. I didn't
Mhm,
want to take care of anybody else emotionally. I was having a wonderful life of independence.
mhm,
And part of that is emotional independence. So Andrew had the capacity to really, look, Thich Nhat Hanh said it best. Thich Nhat Hanh said, who's if
Oh, I
anyone
do know. I've got
yeah,
his books. Yeah.
yes,
What did he say?
wonderful Buddhist teacher said, you must love the people in your life in a way in which they feel free.
Mm,
And I started my wedding vows to Andrew, that way. Like, he loves me in a way that I feel free.
yeah.
And he really has the capacity to allow me to be who I am and to really see that and explore that, and doesn't feel that it's at the expense of himself. The more me I am, the
Mhm.
more he loves me, and the same, you know.
Wow.
Um so yeah, that's my whole story. That's a very long story.
A very beautiful story and such a learning lesson, and that he would come forward with that, in that moment, and that it resonated, and that you were able to let go in a way, is what I heard. There was
Yes,
there was a letting go
yes,
of
exactly.
possible of something else, so that you could be present and available to how this evolved,
Yeah,
through knowing that your freedom was assured. That
yes.
and that's a big one. That's I'm just so moved by, yeah, by your sharing that. That's just and it happens in the most, unexpected times. Right here you are, and our conversations evolve, and we never know when the moment comes. And in life, we never know when what moment comes. And he understands that so fully, that he
Yeah.
was able to share that, and at some level, I mean, obviously you understand that too. You just, it was like, that's so. Then from there, do you want to just, I mean, so from there,
Yeah.
it was just a matter of when, then, right? You just were both in the
Yes.
present.
Yes. Yes. I mean, once it was really like the when I look at this whole story and sort of hearing myself tell it
Mhm.
and taking you through it, I think that really what stands out to me was my own sort of grappling with what I thought I wanted and what I had been so happy cultivating for so long, 12 years of living a certain way and having certain, having defined relationships and shaped relationships a certain way. And then having this person walk in, and it can be a person, it can be a job, it can be whatever, a place to live, whatever in your life. It's sort of like, wow, I didn't even know that I wanted this. In fact, if you asked me, I didn't really want this, but here is an opportunity that is available to me that I'm being presented with, like, let me get curious about what this is, and let me get curious about, and this was an offer that was, I mean, really, honestly, it was an offer that was too good to refuse.
Mhm. Offer that's too good to refuse. And what I heard you say also was reevaluating, your values in a way for something that was too good to refuse.
Yeah.
And then when it showed up, you didn't say, I mean, you held the door open and
Yeah.
you walked through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Took a little while, and I'm grateful for Andrew's patience, but yes.
And here you are to tell the story of
Yes.
really being seriously and to share, I know I've learned so much by listening to your story and by, because sometimes we get really attached to the way we think things should be and the way our life should be. And that this is, what I've said on, I've spent time, cultivating, as you said, really, just really creating a life that I love. And why should I change that? Why should I do something different? And yet you did.
I
And
did.
you really stepped into it. Yeah, and stepped forward into a place that you didn't expect to find yourself. And here
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
And this, yeah, really leads us to, I mean, this is really going beyond boundaries, our own boundaries, right? Or
Yeah.
renegotiating them, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
in a way, it felt like Andrew was a missing puzzle piece. My kids love him, and and my mom loves him, and like everybody loves him, and he's such an addition and adds such value to our lives, so he was able to really sort of come in and complete the puzzle in a way that, like, it didn't feel like there was a piece missing, but here it was. And so yeah, I mean, I just think that, listen, there were plenty of times when someone wanted in, and it was a hell no. And it wasn't, and sometimes it wasn't even a hell no, it was like a no. So, I mean, I don't, it's not to say that you should abandon your boundaries,
right.
but I think you're right. We get attached, and it certainly is worth digging a little bit deeper. And really, what I think, that statement that I made earlier, like, it's too bad this isn't my guy, because I love being with him.
Yes. Yeah.
There it is. It's like, if it feels like home, if it feels right, even though what you've got in your head, you're full of ideas of why it isn't,
Right.
that's something worth exploring. In those moments when it feels good, when the energy is right, when it's a vibrational match, again, with a partner or any other situation in your life, those are the moments that are like, okay, wait a minute here.
Right. Be
I'm
true.
Yeah, I'm a really smart person, and I got a lot of ideas, and I know a lot of things, but like my heart and soul are telling me something that my head doesn't know yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you stayed, yes, and listened and were present for your heart and soul. That's a beautiful, beautiful way to take us into this next piece, that if you want to share what you're doing in the world as well, for heart and soul.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, I am so moved by by the lesson that's here. And you're so right. Is it right for everyone? Probably not. But in your case, you know, and
Yeah.
then with the circumstances and listening to your heart and soul, you did follow them, you know, and that it is right for you. So thank you so much. And to think back to our, so what were you wearing at the time? You know, just that whole moment in time that then transformed into where you are today. It's just beautiful. Zoe, you're amazing, as
Oh,
I knew before, but I know even more now. Just, you know, those moments in time that you opened and stretched and went a little further so that you are where you are today. So we can take that with us as the listeners. And I just really can't thank you enough for being here and for
thank you.
sharing your wisdom with us. Um, and then I know that you've got a new book coming out and
Yeah.
you've got your zoekors.com. Is that right?
Yeah. ZoeKors.com, ZoeKors.com.
Mhm.
The book is called Radical Intimacy: Cultivate the Deeply Connected Relationships You Desire and Deserve.
Mm.
You can buy that anywhere you buy your books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, or you can go to ZoeKors.com and there's a, you know, I link out to those sites from there.
Fantastic. Well, we hope everyone that's watching this does go visit that site and you'll learn even more about Zoe and the spectacular and really heart-moving work she's doing in the world. So Zoe, it's always good to see you and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Yes, likewise.
Thank you.